Tension hung thick in the air as the Gore's War Council assembled in the towering obsidian halls of the Cordic Prime Chamber. Above them, the artificial glow of the planetary defense grid pulsed, a chilling reminder of the Empire's unyielding dominance. Yet in that room, where power should have brought confidence, a shadow of unease crept in, silent and unwelcome. It came in the form of one being, General Taser, an old warrior. His once bright blue scales were dulled by time, worn and scarred by battles long past. His crest, which had once stood proudly atop his head, now drooped, a silent testament to the weight of years and memories. Revered by some but largely dismissed by the younger, more ambitious commanders, Taser had become a relic, seen more as a warning of what not to become than as a source of wisdom. The room crackled with impatience. "Express your thoughts, General," barked Commander Vien Bart Van. His tone was clipped, sharp. A crimson-armored soldier whose eyes blazed with arrogance and thirst for glory, he leaned forward, flame-bright irises locked on Taser with something close to disdain. "We have the authority, Van," he continued. "Let's not waste time." A murmur of approval echoed around the chamber. Among the crowd, a quiet figure shifted uncomfortably. Lieutenant Arden, a low-ranking officer with none of the swagger of his peers, sat under the weight of judgmental gazes, but he said nothing. Taser inhaled slowly, deeply. "You believe they are weak," he said finally, his voice heavy with warning. "Chaotic, undisciplined. You laugh at their disorder, and that laughter will be your downfall." Van scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "Again with your obsession," he muttered. "They're pitiful, inconvenient maybe, but certainly not a threat." "You think that," Taser replied coldly, "because you haven't faced them." The room fell still. "You mock their technology," he continued, his eyes scanning the room. "Call their fleets chaotic, see no strategy. But you miss what lies beneath, their resolve, their creativity." "Enough," Van growled, rolling his eyes. "If they were truly a threat, we'd have seen it by now." Taser's gaze darkened. "3 cycles ago," he said, his voice lowering, "I was at Darien 5. A beat. I was there," he repeated. "We believed our fleet was invincible. We arrived expecting an easy victory. We outnumbered them, we outgunned them. What we found." He trailed off, the sound of his claws tapping the table ringing like distant gunfire. "They fought like animals, desperate, clever. They used every mistake we made. They turned their own machinery into bombs when it failed, dug trenches into the dirt, laid traps. They made our numbers work against us. It wasn't strategy, it was survival." Van sneered. "And yet here you are. If they were so dangerous, how are you still alive?" Taser's voice turned cold. "Because they let me live." The silence was suffocating. "They dismantled our fleet not out of cruelty, but precision," he said. "They spared non-combatants, but they made sure we understood, never come back. They left one ship untouched, mine, as a message." Even Van shifted in his seat now, but he forced a smirk. "That was then. This is now. We are not that fleet. We are the Gork's empire, and the most powerful force in the galaxy. The tricks they used on you won't work on us." Taser shook his head, his voice edged with grief. "They don't fight for conquest or glory or resources. They fight to survive. And those who fight to survive don't fight fair." Lieutenant Arden leaned forward. "If that's true, General, why not pursue diplomacy?" Taser's eyes softened. "Would you trust us after all we've shown them? Our pride, our cruelty." Van slammed his fist on the table, shattering the moment. "Enough. The Council has decided. The invasion will proceed. Humanity stands in our way, and obstacles are meant to be destroyed." Taser's shoulders sank, but his eyes still burned. "You're making a terrible mistake," he whispered. "One that will cost us more than we can imagine." Van scoffed. "Maybe, old man. Or maybe you've just gone soft. As murmurs filled the chamber, officers began to file out. Arden lingered, watching the old general. "Do you really think we can't defeat them?" he asked quietly. Taser didn't answer immediately. Then, his voice low and resolute, "Winning is not the question, Lieutenant. The question is, can we survive?" Arden nodded slowly. He didn't know what to say. Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving Taser alone in the silent room. The elderly general closed his eyes. The memories of Darien 5 flooded back, the fire, the screams, the heat of plasma ripping through comrades. "I warned them," he muttered to himself. "May the gods have mercy." New Horizon had always been a beacon of progress, its cities gleaming under twin suns. But now the air was thick with smoke, and the ground trembled with ruin. The Gork's attack had been swift, brutal. Towers fell, shuttles exploded mid-air, civilians screamed, their cries drowned by the relentless roar of alien engines. From his command ship above, Weapons Commander Vaughn watched with a cruel smile. "This will teach them," he murmured. Behind him, a quiet voice interrupted. Lieutenant Arden, his face pale, his gaze fixed on the burning world below, said nothing. But the weight of Taser's warning pressed on his shoulders. At the colony's edge, a lone communications officer stumbled through debris. His uniform torn, body burned, with trembling fingers he activated a battered transmitter. His message was brief and desperate: "This isn't just a request to evacuate. This is a warning of extinction." A distress call crackled through the bridge. Captain Marcus Johnson stood still, listening. A veteran of countless battles, his face was stone-hard, eyes of steel. "New Horizon," he muttered, his voice like a blade's edge. "How long until we lost contact?" he asked. "Just minutes ago," came the reply. Johnson's jaw clenched. "Tactical status?" Commander Owen Price stepped forward. "Nearest reinforcements are 6 days out. We're alone." Silence. Then Johnson's voice cut through it, clear and cold: "Then we show them what it means to provoke humanity." Chaos erupted into motion. Orders flew, lights blinked, systems hummed. At the science console, Dr. Heath Mercer's eyes darted over data. Thin, quiet, but brilliant and furious. "This wasn't a military operation," Mercer growled. "This was a test, to see how far they can push us." "Well," Johnson said, "they're about to find out." Scene shift, hours later. The remains of New Horizon floated in space. No life detected, only ashes and twisted metal. Johnson stood at the viewing deck. "They think this will break us," he whispered. "They've misjudged." "Orders, sir?" Price asked. Johnson turned, his expression unreadable. "We make them pay." Human ships, fast, surgical, lethal, slipped through enemy lines. They struck with vengeance, targeted outposts, supply chains, strategic locations. The Gorks, used to brute force, found themselves outmaneuvered. Their arrogance became their weakness. At the heart of it all was Captain Johnson, a master strategist, anticipating every Gork's response, turning every weakness into a weapon. Dr. Mercer provided the key, decrypting Gork's communication protocols, exposing flaws, vulnerabilities, blind spots. The tide began to turn. Rumors spread like wildfire: the humans are everywhere, unseen, unstoppable. Even Vaughn began to panic. He ordered counterattacks, but his superiors hesitated, their confidence shattered. Mercer pointed at a holographic map. "They're regrouping," he said. "Preparing something massive." Johnson narrowed his eyes. "Then let's make sure they never get the chance. This is the main defensive fleet of humanity. Where it concludes," he said, a combination of self-assurance and rage in his voice. "No more. No more games. We'll destroy the skirmishes." Lieutenant Arden was standing nearby now, discreetly observing the fleet. By his side, the gradual progress of the enemy moved in the direction of the human positions. There was no doubting the overwhelming strength of their troops, but a knot of discomfort tightened in the humans' chests. The enemy had demonstrated resourcefulness and unpredictability, yet now the silence felt unsettling. On the UNS Daedalus's side of the battle, Captain Marcus Johnson noted the Gork fleet, staring, calculating. The formation of the enemy was flawless, strength that could not be disputed. And yet he saw it for what it was, a strict system that begged to be exploited. Beside him, Dr. Heath Mercer examined the adversary's actions with the vigor of a man looking for cracks in an unbreakable wall. "They're committed to everything," Mercer said, his voice carrying a strange blend of admiration and contempt. "Haughty bastards, they believe sheer numbers will prevail." Johnson nodded, his face unreadable. "They've still to learn," he muttered. "Let's teach them what it means to be human." Their ships didn't make the first move, but through Mercer's team, digital ether warriors, cyber experts working in the background, a string of precise attacks were launched against the Gork fleet. Targeting arrays failed, communication systems malfunctioned, false alarms cascaded across their ships, triggering chaos. On board Van's flagship of the Gork's fleet, a clawed hand slammed into the console. "What is happening?"